So it can feel pretty overwhelming, can it? Just navigating life these days.
Yeah.
The endless scrolling, instant gratification, constant distraction. Our attention feels like, well, the most valuable currency.
Totally.
Yeah.
And everything's trying to buy it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you just look at how apps and platforms are engineered, right? Billions spent specifically to hijack our focus. Notifications ping, videos autoplay, messages buzz.
Oh.
You pick up your phone for one little thing and suddenly,
An hour's gone.
just like that. Yeah, an hour just vanishes. It feels very much by design.
It really does. And, in the middle of all that noise, the material we dove into, it points to one skill, maybe the rarest, but also like the most powerful.
And that is?
Self-discipline.
Yeah.
It's not flashy. You don't see it trending anywhere.
No.
But it's described in these sources as the silent force, the force behind all lasting success, the actual foundation for, meaningful achievement.
That point really hits home. There's even that powerful quote included from Jim Rohn.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Oof. Yeah. Puts it pretty starkly, doesn't it?
It really lays out the stakes.
It certainly does. And that's exactly what we're here to do in this deep dive. We've taken this stack of your sources, articles, research notes, all of it.
Right.
And our mission to pull out the most important, the most actionable insights on self-discipline. We're going to unpack what it actually is, how it's really different from, say, fleeting motivation, how you can actually build it day to day, using systems, habits.
Practical stuff.
Exactly. Managing your environment, mastering the art of saying no, handling your emotions, and ultimately, maybe reframing discipline, seeing it less like a chore and more like an act of self-love, a core part of who you are.
It's a journey, isn't it? From just understanding a concept to really exploring how you can, embody it, apply it to real things, like hitting long-term goals or even, say, learning a new language.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So, kicking things off, I was really struck by how the material, right away, makes this crucial distinction. Self-discipline, not the same as willpower.
Not at all.
And definitely not the same as motivation.
Yeah.
How do the sources sort of tease those apart?
Well, they define self-discipline pretty clearly. It's fundamentally the ability to do what you need to do. Simple as that.
Even when you really don't feel like it.
Especially when you don't feel like it. It's that consistent choice, right?
Yeah.
Choosing long-term growth over, immediate comfort, short-term ease.
Okay, and willpower then. That feels like the word most people use, forcing yourself.
It is, yeah, the common term. But willpower, as it's described here, it's more like a short burst, intense, like lighting a match,
Oh, okay. Burns bright, burns fast.
Exactly. It helps you in a specific moment, maybe saying no to that second slice of cake right then, but it's reactive. And crucially, it gets exhausted.
Right.
They mention this idea of ego depletion. Basically, using willpower drains this limited resource throughout the day.
So you have less left later on.
Yeah, leaving you with less ability to resist temptations come evening time.
Ah, okay. So by the end of the day, you're running on empty if you've just been white-knuckling it with willpower.
Yeah.
Self-discipline sounds like it's less about that constant battle.
Precisely. That's the core difference. Self-discipline isn't primarily about reacting against temptation with brute force in the moment. It's proactive.
Proactive how?
It's about designing your life, your environment, your routines, so that those difficult situations, those temptations, they require less force in the first place.
Gotcha.
It's the system, or maybe the routine, that gets you out of bed for that early workout, not just a raw fight with the snooze button every single morning.
Okay, so it's the structure, the framework, not just the feeling or that momentary strength, which brings us to motivation. The sources are pretty blunt about motivation. See, it's unreliable.
Oh, they are. Very blunt. Motivation, it's often based on emotions, right? Inspiration, which naturally rise and fall like waves.
Totally unpredictable.
Exactly. It waits for the right moment, when you feel energized, inspired, excited. But those moments, honestly, they're rare. and they're often really fleeting.
So trying to build something significant, just waiting for motivation.
It's like trying to build on shifting sand. It just doesn't hold up.
And this is where discipline steps in, right? When that wave of motivation inevitably disappears.
Precisely. Yeah, One Piece uses this great analogy. If motivation is the wind, then discipline is the sail you raise every morning.
I like that.
Yeah, discipline doesn't depend on how you feel. It's built on commitment, on like aligning with your identity, and just sheer consistency.
Showing up.
Showing up. The days you push through and do the thing, even when you least feel like it, those are the days that actually count the most for building this muscle.
That's a powerful reframing. And it lines up with the science mentioned too, right? That disciplined people aren't necessarily born with more willpower.
No, not at all. They're just better, apparently, at structuring their lives. So they face fewer temptations. They rely less on that daily depletable willpower resource.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they prepare, they automate choices, they follow routines. It's really about making the desired behavior the easy choice, the default.
So for any of you out there, maybe working towards a long-term goal, could be learning English, sticking to exercise, building a business, understanding this distinction is key. Discipline is about consistent systems, consistent structure.
Right.
Not just hoping for willpower or, waiting for motivation to strike. It shifts your focus away from trying to feel like doing it.
Yeah, totally.
And towards building a framework that helps you act anyway.
Exactly. Acting regardless of feeling.
So if self-discipline isn't this heroic battle of willpower, but it's more about systems, structure, where do we start building that architecture? The sources we looked at, they point pretty strongly towards habits.
Habits, yeah. They're called the invisible architecture of daily life in one source, and that feels very apt.
Invisible architecture. I like that.
Yeah. They are these automatic behaviors that once they're formed, they just require significantly less energy, less willpower than making conscious decisions all the time. They just sort of carry you forward.
And that effortless part, that's the power, isn't it? Especially since they compound over time, little things add up.
Exactly right. Small, consistent actions repeated over and over again. That's what adds up to mastery, to significant progress. It's definitely about the small steps, not trying to take these giant leaps every single day.
The material mentions James Clear's concept of habit stacking. That seems really practical, very doable.
Oh, it is. It's a really smart way to leverage behaviors you already do automatically. You basically link a new habit you want to build onto an existing ingrained one.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so maybe practicing a few English phrases right after you brush your teeth, or reading just one page of a book immediately after you pour your morning coffee.
So the existing habit, brushing teeth, coffee acts as the trigger, the cue.
Precisely. The existing habit is a reliable cue for the new one. You're not trying to remember to do something totally new out of the blue. You're just attaching it to something your brain is already programmed for.
And starting small with that new habit, that makes it way less daunting, right?
Definitely. I mean, setting out to learn English for 2 hours a day might feel completely overwhelming, unsustainable probably.
Yeah, for sure.
But committing to just 5 minutes, that lowers the intimidation factor massively. It makes it achievable. And crucially, it lets you build that sense of accomplishment early on. That's huge.
And using habits helps fight that decision fatigue we mentioned earlier, the thing that drains willpower.
Right. Exactly. When behaviors become automatic, they free up your mental energy. You're not constantly having to make decisions about what to do next. The sources even bring up Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
His meticulously planned daily routine. A historical example of leveraging routine, leveraging habits to maximize productivity and just minimize that decision drain.
It's also kind of encouraging to remember that our brains, they have plasticity.
Right.
We can actually rewire old habits and build new ones. It's learnable.
Absolutely learnable. And the environment, your surroundings, plays a huge role in making this easier or harder.
Right.
Your environment can be your greatest ally, or honestly, your biggest saboteur when it comes to forming habits. Simple things matter, like having flashcards visible on your desk, or just making sure your phone is out of sight when you need to focus.
That's a perfect segue into the environment piece. So for you listening, thinking about your own day, what's maybe one small habit you could start building? Just 5 minutes, maybe. And could you stack it onto something you already do automatically?
Yeah, give that some thought.
Okay, let's dive deeper into this idea of environment because the sources really, really emphasize it. One phrase that stuck out, design beats willpower.
Yes. The powerful concept, it fundamentally shifts the focus, doesn't it?
How so?
Instead of relying on your, frankly, limited willpower to just resist temptation all day, you intentionally shape your space, physical space, digital space, to make the disciplined choices the easier ones, the default option, and make distractions harder to get to.
And distractions seem like, public enemy number one for focus and discipline today.
Without a doubt. So the first step is just identifying your biggest culprits. What are they? Is it your phone, specific apps, constant notifications, maybe a cluttered workspace, background noise?
Could be anything.
Right. Then you take deliberate steps. Remove them, limit them, turn off notifications, uninstall those time-wasting apps. Use website blockers. Create a clean, minimalist workspace when you really need to focus.
Setting triggers in the environment sounds helpful too, like cues that prompt the good behavior.
Yes, exactly. Leaving your water bottle on your desk, that's a visual cue to stay hydrated. Yeah. Putting your workout clothes out the night before makes it that much easier to just get started in the morning. These little environmental triggers, they reduce the mental effort needed to begin.
And digital devices. Yeah. Probably the prime source of distraction for most of us.
Oh, absolutely. Implementing some digital detox strategies is really important here.
Like what kind of strategies?
Could be having no screen times, maybe the first hour you wake up. Dedicate it to quiet work or reading before you even look at a screen. Or maybe putting the phone away the last hour before bed.
Bookending the day.
Exactly. Creating digital zones, places where phones just aren't allowed, like the dining table or the bedroom. Using apps to monitor and actually limit your screen time, or even, taking periodic full disconnects, a day offline, a weekend.
It's about building intentional boundaries, isn't it? In that digital world that's just constantly clawing for your attention. And I guess optimizing your physical space too. Lighting, comfort, less clutter, that all feeds into it.
It all contributes. It's all about reducing the friction for disciplined actions and increasing the friction for the distracted ones.
Okay, so that's designing your physical and digital environment.
Yeah.
But there's another environmental aspect mentioned that feels equally crucial, maybe even harder.
Which is?
The art of saying no.
Ah, yes. This is presented as an absolutely critical skill for maintaining discipline. The core idea is simple but, profound. Every yes is a no to something else.
That's good.
Your time, your energy, your focus, they're finite resources, right? Saying yes to every request, every invitation, every notification that pops up. It means you are automatically, whether you realize it or not, saying no to your own priorities, your goals, your well-being.
And saying no is, let's be honest, notoriously difficult for a lot of people. There's guilt, there's FOMO, fear of missing out, not wanting to disappoint others.
It is hard, definitely.
Yeah.
But the sources really encourage reframing it. Saying no isn't selfish. It's actually an act of setting a boundary. It's self-respect. It's about getting clear on what truly matters to you.
So clarity first. What are your priorities?
That's the starting point. Being crystal clear on your own values and goals first. That lens helps you evaluate every request that comes your way.
Pausing before committing sounds like a really practical first step there. Don't just jump to yes.
Definitely. Instead of that automatic yes, just give yourself a moment. Buy yourself some time. Phrases like, let me check my schedule and get back to you, are golden.
Buys you thinking time.
Exactly. And it's also important to recognize the emotional triggers, that guilt, that people-pleasing impulse, and actively reframe them. Saying no to something draining, that's actually saying yes to something uplifting or something vital for your goals.
And being polite but firm seems key. No need for long, rambling excuses.
No, exactly. The examples given are really straightforward and respectful. Things like, thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be able to commit to that right now. Or, I appreciate the offer, but I'm focusing on some other priorities at the moment. Clear, kind, firm,
They don't really invite negotiation, do they?
Not really. And creating personal policies sounds like a smart move, too. A way to automate those no decisions.
What kind of policies?
Like deciding upfront, I don't check emails after 6 p.m. or I don't take meetings on Mondays. Those pre-decided policies, they remove the emotional weight and the decision fatigue in the moment. You're just following your rule.
Makes sense. Ultimately, saying no creates that essential space, doesn't it? For the things that really matter. Allows for depth, focus, instead of just being spread thin.
And it builds integrity because you're aligning your actions with your stated values. It's about designing your life by conscious choice, really.
Yeah.
Not just letting it be dictated by everyone else's requests.
Okay. So for you, the listener, thinking about designing your environment, protecting your focus, what's maybe one distraction you could remove this week? Physical or digital? Or maybe what's one request you could practice politely saying no to?
Good questions to ponder.
Okay, let's take these ideas, consistency, habits, designing for ease, and apply them somewhere concrete, like, say, long-term language learning. The sources really highlight discipline as fundamental for success there.
Oh, they're very clear on this. They basically suggest that most people don't struggle with language learning because they lack intelligence or opportunity. It's inconsistency.
Lack of sticking with it.
Exactly. Language learning is a marathon, absolutely not a sprint.
So it's all about showing up consistently, even, maybe especially, when that initial motivation, that excitement, wears off.
That's the core message. The emphasis is on daily practice, even if it's just a focused 15-30 minutes. Consistency builds momentum. Language is like a muscle, right? It needs regular intentional training. The quantity matters less than that consistent engagement.
And discipline is crucial for getting over that huge hurdle.
Sure.
The fear of actually speaking.
Oh, definitely. So many learners get stuck there. They're afraid of making mistakes, sounding awkward, being judged.
Totally understandable.
It is. But facing that fear requires courage, yes, but it also requires discipline. You have to make the disciplined choice to speak anyway. Even when you feel scared or silly, you have to remind yourself, mistakes are normal. They're part of learning. Fluency is about communication, not perfection.
Just gotta do it.
Gotta do it. And speaking regularly, even badly at first, builds that confidence muscle.
The sources list some specific discipline techniques too, like shadowing. What's that?
Shadowing is, it's a powerful discipline practice. It involves listening to native speakers, maybe a recording or a video, and mimicking their tone, their rhythm, their pronunciation in real time, trying to match them exactly.
Sounds intense.
It takes intense focus, and repetition, pure discipline. But it really trains your mouth, your ear, and helps you develop a much more intuitive feel for how the language flows.
And journaling in English, that sounds like another good consistent practice.
Yes, writing daily, even just a few sentences. It's a great way to build vocabulary actively, reinforce grammar structures naturally, and just get more comfortable thinking directly in English. It's not about writing a novel.
Right.
It's about the consistent practice, showing up on the page.
Active reading is another one mentioned, not just passively letting your eyes scan the page.
Exactly. Reading with intention, underlining new words, writing down useful phrases, maybe even rereading sections to really absorb them. Making reading a regular habit, even just 10 minutes a day, consistently exposes you to thousands and thousands of words and structures over time. It's that disciplined repetition that makes the difference.
And setting clear, realistic goals, tracking your progress. That seems vital for keeping the momentum going in something like language learning.
Absolutely vital. Small, measurable goals like master one new grammar point this week or have one 5-minute conversation. They're so much easier to stick with consistently. And they create that sense of progress that fuels more discipline. And again, linking this practice back to existing routines, habit stacking helps make it automatic.
Okay, shifting gears a little, but sticking with this theme of applying discipline to our internal states. Let's talk about emotional control. The sources present this as a really key area for self-discipline.
This is a really profound application, I think. Emotional control, as it's described here, it isn't about suppressing your feelings. Not at all.
Right, not bottling things up.
No, it's about regulating your internal world. Choosing to respond thoughtfully rather than just reacting impulsively. It's about mastering that crucial space, that pause between a stimulus and your response.
And reacting is that automatic thing,
Yeah.
that flash of anger or frustration.
Right. It's the sharp, maybe regrettable reply in an argument, or giving in to an unhealthy craving immediately. Reacting is often driven by fear or anger or ego.
Responding.
Responding is the result of presence, awareness. It's thoughtful, measured. It considers the outcome. Discipline acts like the anchor during that pause, allowing you to make a conscious choice about how you want to proceed.
So it's not about not feeling the anger or frustration,
No, you still feel it.
but not being ruled by it.
Precisely. It's recognizing the emotion, accepting it's there, but choosing how you act based on your values, your goals, not just the immediate feeling. And it's definitely a skill, something you build like any other.
And the sources suggest tools like meditation and journaling are really helpful for building this skill.
They do. Meditation, especially mindfulness practices, trains you to just observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Simply noticing them as temporary states, like clouds passing, this strengthens your capacity for self-regulation, for focus. Even just 5 or 10 minutes of focused breath work can really help build that inner presence.
And journaling helps process the emotions once they arise.
Yes. Writing down what you're feeling, exploring why you might be feeling it, maybe asking what story you're telling yourself about the situation. This process helps externalize it, process it. It builds emotional awareness and reduces that feeling of being overwhelmed or controlled by emotions in the moment.
It sounds like emotional discipline is really a way of navigating life with more presence, more intention.
It is, yeah. It's about staying calm in challenging situations, choosing to walk away from unproductive arguments, practicing forgiveness maybe, responding with compassion even when you're feeling provoked.
And the rewards sound pretty significant. Mental clarity, stronger relationships.
Definitely. More trusting relationships, greater self-respect too.
Oh, so?
Well, when you can trust yourself to handle difficult emotions with, a bit of grace, it builds profound inner strength, self-trust. And it's important to remember this takes time, practice. It's always about progress, not perfection.
Right. So for you, the listener, thinking about this disciplined application, consistency, emotional control, what's one practice, maybe a language technique like shadowing or an emotional tool like journaling, what's one thing you could commit to trying consistently this week?
Just one small thing.
It feels like building discipline often pushes you right up against, well, the edge of your comfort zone. It's not comfortable.
Oh, the material makes a very strong point about this. Discipline is fundamentally not built in comfort. It's forged in resistance, in challenge, in voluntarily choosing to do things that are uncomfortable. Comfort, they argue, actually tends to make us mentally soft.
Framing discomfort as a mental gym. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, I like that too. Like lifting weights builds physical muscle. Choosing challenges voluntarily builds mental strength. Focus. Resilience.
Yeah.
You are literally training your capacity to do hard things.
Like taking cold showers. That seems to pop up a lot in these discussions.
It does, and for good reason, I think. It's such a simple daily act that forces you to choose action despite really strong physical resistance, discomfort. It's a practice in doing uncomfortable things that you know are good for you.
Starting the day with a win.
Exactly. Starting the day with a win over your own resistance. It reinforces that habit of doing hard things first.
Waking up early is another classic example.
Absolutely. Requires discipline, right? And it's described as an act of power. You are actively choosing to control your morning rather than being controlled by your alarm clock or just your desire to sleep in. It sets the tone. Creates valuable space for focus, reflection.
And hard conversations.
Yeah.
Those are definitely uncomfortable for most of us.
Oh, yeah. Speaking your truth, setting boundaries, admitting mistakes, asking for help, even saying no, like we talked about. These are emotionally challenging. They require you to lean into discomfort. But doing them, that builds emotional maturity, self-respect. It proves to yourself you can handle difficult situations.
So it's really about actively reframing discomfort. Seeing it not as something to avoid at all costs,
Right.
but maybe as a signal for growth, and choosing to lean into it, maybe even just a little bit.
Asking, okay, what is this discomfort trying to teach me? And delaying gratification, saying no to that immediate pleasure for a bigger long-term gain. That's another form of voluntary discomfort we practice all the time, or should.
Like skipping the junk food or studying instead of scrolling.
Exactly. You're training your mind to follow your intention, your values, not just the immediate impulse.
And this builds a kind of mental toughness, doesn't it? That spills over into other areas of life, prepares you for the bigger, unexpected challenges.
It really does. It's this paradox. By embracing chosen discomfort, you build resilience that ultimately creates a deeper, more grounded kind of comfort, confidence, clarity, peace of mind.
It's true. And this idea leads pretty directly into tackling another uncomfortable area: strategically breaking bad habits.
Yes, because that also involves discomfort and needs a disciplined approach.
Bad habits definitely hold us back. Mindless scrolling, procrastination, unhealthy choices, we all have them. And just wanting to change isn't enough, is it?
No, wanting is easy. Doing is hard. It needs understanding and it needs strategy.
That's where understanding the habit loop comes in, right, from Charles Duhigg's work.
Exactly. It breaks down how habits work into that 4-part sequence: cue, like, craving, response, reward. The sources really encourage you to become like a student of your own behavior.
Observe yourself.
Yeah, observe your habits, but without judgment. Ask yourself, what triggers it? What's the cue? What craving is this habit actually satisfying underneath? And what's the reward I'm getting? Think about checking your phone constantly.
Okay.
The cue could be boredom or notification. The craving might be for stimulation or connection or just novelty. The response is picking up the phone. The reward is that brief hit of distraction or maybe seeing a like.
So understanding the loop is step one. And then the principle is replace. Don't just remove.
Crucial point, exactly. Your brain really doesn't like a void. Simply trying to stop a bad habit usually just creates this internal struggle, this tension. Instead, you need to replace the response part of the loop. Swap the bad habit response with a positive one that ideally satisfies the same underlying craving.
Gotcha. So if scrolling satisfies a craving for novelty or distraction,
maybe you replace that response with reading a book for 5 minutes, or listening to a short podcast segment, or maybe texting a friend to get that connection hit. You're saying yes to a different, better behavior that meets the need.
And applying that design beats willpower principle here is essential too.
Absolutely crucial. Design your environment to make the bad habit harder and the replacement habit easier. Delete those time-wasting apps. Set screen time limits. Charge your phone in another room at night.
Make it inconvenient.
Yes. And leave the book you want to read right there on your bedside table. Make the good choice easy. It's the design of discipline applied directly to habit change.
Tracking your progress seems important too, for momentum, self-trust.
Definitely. What you measure, you improve. Seeing your progress, even tiny wins, reinforces the new behavior, builds confidence, and if you slip up, have a setback, the material strongly encourages reframing it.
No.
See it as feedback, not failure. Learn from it. Why did it happen? What was the trigger? And then just get back on track. Resilience is absolutely key.
And ultimately, breaking these habits, it's deeply connected to identity change, isn't it? You start to see yourself differently.
Yes, exactly. You become someone who is healthy or who is present or who is focused. Your actions start to align with your values, and that alignment reinforces a new, stronger identity.
Okay. So thinking about embracing discomfort and tackling bad habits, for you listening, what's maybe one small discomfort you can choose to lean into today? Just for a few minutes. And what's one bad habit you have that you could start to understand using that habit loop? Maybe just identify the cue or the craving it satisfies.
Small steps. Awareness first.
We've explored the core of discipline, building it with habits, environment, applying it to language, emotions, discomfort, bad habits. How do all of this connect to the bigger picture? Our long-term goals, our dreams.
Well, discipline really is the bridge, isn't it? It's the bridge between your goals and actually achieving them. It's what keeps you moving forward long, long after that initial burst of motivation inevitably fades. It's that consistent choice for long-term gain over short-term pleasure.
Like in the famous marshmallow test study,
Right.
showing how that ability to delay gratification as a kid predicted success later on.
Exactly. That ability to forego immediate pleasure for a greater reward later, that's a fundamental component of self-discipline.
And structuring those long-term goals helps make the discipline feel more, well, actionable, using frameworks like SMART goals.
Yes, definitely. Making goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It turns these vague hopes, like I want to be fluent in English, into concrete, actionable steps. Like, I will practice speaking English using shadowing for 10 minutes every single day for the next month. That gives your discipline a clear target, something to aim for each day.
But goals aren't just logical, are they? They need that emotional connection, too, to fuel the consistent effort.
Oh, absolutely critical. Tools like vision boards or even just daily mental visualization can be incredibly powerful here. Seeing your goals visually or mentally rehearsing what success feels like, it helps make those long-term rewards feel more real, more tangible now.
Connects you to the why.
Exactly. It aligns your subconscious with the daily effort required. It reminds you why you're putting in the work, especially when your discipline is inevitably tested.
Because it will be tested. Life happens. Things get tough.
It will, absolutely. But the power is in returning to the path, staying the course anyway. The sources frame every single choice, no matter how small, as vote for the future you want.
I like that. A vote.
Yeah. Every time you choose the disciplined path, you're casting a vote for that future self you envision.
And this really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? From discipline being some temporary struggle, some 30-day challenge, to it being a fundamental lifestyle.
Yes. This is such a crucial mindset shift presented in the material. It's not just something you do for a while. It becomes a lifelong practice, a fundamental part of who you are.
So you adopt the identity.
Yes, the identity of I'm the type of person who acts in alignment with my goals, who follows through, who respects their commitments. That identity is incredibly powerful.
I'm the type of person who gets up and does the work, even when I don't feel like it.
Exactly that. It removes so much of the internal debate in the moment. And that identity, it's built moment by moment, choice by choice. And the real test, the sources say, of this lifestyle discipline, it's when nobody's watching.
Doing it for yourself.
Doing the work purely for yourself. That's where true inner strength, true personal standards are forged. That's why quick fixes often fail, right? They're rooted in external pressure or temporary motivation, not this deeper identity shift.
Makes sense.
So building discipline into a lifestyle means designing your routines around your deepest values, keeping your habits simple, sustainable, mastering the basics consistently, and creating an environment that supports who you want to be.
And the paradox, again, is that this disciplined lifestyle, which sounds restrictive to some, it actually creates more freedom in the long run.
Yes, it really does. It brings clarity. It frees you from constant indecision. It builds deep trust in yourself. And it gives you the ability, the power to actually act in alignment with your values and your dreams. That, to me, is true freedom.
And finally, maybe the most profound reframing offered in all this material, the one that really changes how you might view this whole topic.
Go on.
Self-discipline is not self-punishment. It is self-love in action.
Ah, yes. That changes everything, doesn't it? It's not some harsh, punitive force you inflict upon yourself. It's actually an act of kindness, kindness towards your future self, nurturing the person you are becoming. It's making a conscious commitment today for a better, stronger, more fulfilled tomorrow.
Discipline is protection. Protecting your health, your dreams, your peace of mind. It's the fundamental foundation of self-respect. Proving to yourself every single day that you believe you are worth the effort, worth the work required to build a good life.
And seeing discipline through this lens of self-love, it helps stop that internal fight, doesn't it? It brings compassion to the process, patience. Every small disciplined step you take becomes an act of kindness towards your future self.
And the material offers some really simple, actionable steps based on this exact idea.
Yeah, it encourages starting really small. First, identify just one small area where practicing discipline today would clearly benefit your future self, just one.
Okay.
Second, create a clear, simple plan for that specific action. Make it easy to start, lower the bar.
Remove friction.
Exactly. And third, set up a gentle daily reminder, maybe just a note or a question you ask yourself at the end of the day, like, did I care for my future self today by taking that small step?
It's about progress, isn't it? Not perfection. Yep. A consistent practice, not some heavy burden.
It's a gift, really. A gift you give yourself day after day.
So we've taken quite a deep dive here into your sources on self-discipline. We've moved from really understanding its core difference from willpower and motivation to the practical steps of building it through habits, designing your environment, mastering the art of saying no.
Applying it to challenges like language learning, emotional control.
Right. Leaning into discomfort, tackling bad habits, and ultimately connecting it all back to our long-term goals and this idea of identity.
Yeah, we've seen that discipline, it really isn't about being some rigid robot or suppressing how you feel. It's much more about making conscious choices, building supportive systems that, reduce the friction, and just consistently showing up for the person you are striving to become.
So for any of you out there, working towards any significant goal could be mastering English, starting a new venture, or maybe just building a more intentional life. It seems abundantly clear from all this material that discipline, especially when it's reframed and applied strategically, it's truly your most powerful tool.
It really is the bridge to your dreams. And the journey, well, it starts now with that very next choice you make.
Which brings us to that final provocative thought, something to carry forward, drawing from the depths of the sources we explored today. Perhaps it's this: growth truly starts where your comfort zone ends. And self-discipline, that's the key that opens the door to that discomfort, and therefore opens the door to growth.
That's powerful. Or maybe it's this question to leave you with. What small discipline step, viewed as an act of self-love, will you take today to start building the identity of the person you truly want to become?